And welcome in for another edition of That Boy Was Busy, seen exclusively here on Mark Out Moments. I'm Palm Water Dave. Thank you for joining me today as we're going to talk about one of my favorite villains from the 1980s, the highly charismatic Freebird Michael P.S. Hayes. We're going to talk about his April of 1980. He was in Mid South. He was doing his thing down there. This is long before he came out with Bad Street USA, but uh, he had an incredible run that month. He's going to work 19 matches. He's going to travel 3,700 miles, and that's 3,700 miles by car. They weren't hopping Southwest making towns back then. They were loading up a car and going. So they were driving off. It was a it was a huge Mid South is a huge territory. So why don't we just go ahead and jump on in and talk about Michael Hayes' epic 1980, April 1980. On April the 1st for Mid South Wrestling, he was at the Riverside Centroplex in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Buck Robley defeated Michael Hayes by countout. Uh, then on another match in the same building, uh, I'm going to guess that him having Buck Robley on the same card as this, that would have probably been a captain's match. And what that would have been is back in the day, you would have just got two of the guys in the tag match to work an extra match. The captain of each team would have wrestled each other because Buck Robley and the Junkyard Dog defeated the fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, on that card. On April the 2nd, 1980, which would have been my 16th birthday, 14th birthday, excuse me. Math is hard. Buck Robley defeats Michael Hayes by countout at the Fairgrounds Industrial Building in Jackson, Mississippi. On the 3rd of April, Buck Robley, Paul Orndorff, and the Junkyard Dog defeat Bob Sweetan and the fabulous Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy, at the auditorium in Lafayette, Louisiana. On the 4th of April, for the Mid-South Tag Team title, the fabulous Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy, defeat the team of King Cobra and Terry Orndorff at the Municipal Auditorium in Shreveport, Louisiana. I've actually worked with King Cobra here in Mississippi in the last 2.5 years. On April 5th, Buck Robley defeats Michael Hayes by countout in Rapids Parish Coliseum in Alexandria, Louisiana. On the 5th, Buck Robley and Paul Orndorff defeat Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy at the Rapids Parish Coliseum in Alexandria, Louisiana. It's the same building. I'm sure we're having a captain's match situation there again. Seems like Michael Hayes is married to Buck Robley in April of 1980 because they're at it all the time. On the 6th, for the Mid-South Tag Team titles, Buck Robley and the Junkyard Dog defeat the fabulous Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy. The title did change hands. Buck Robley and the Junkyard Dog becoming the tag team champions in the Civic Center in Monroe, Louisiana. On the 7th of April, Mid-South Tag Team title is on the line as Buck Robley and the Junkyard Dog defeat the fabulous Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy, in the Municipal Auditorium in New Orleans, Louisiana. On the 9th, Paul Orndorff and Terry Orndorff beat the fabulous Freebirds by disqualification. They're back at the Fairgrounds Industrial Building in Jackson, Mississippi. On the 13th, it's another double shot, and you guessed it, Buck Robley defeats Michael Hayes at the Civic Center in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And then later that night, Buck Robley and Paul Orndorff defeat Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy in the same building. On the 14th, fabulous Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy versus King Cobra and the Junkyard Dog go to a time limit draw at the Municipal Auditorium in New Orleans. On the 16th, for the Mid-South Tag Team title, Buck Robley and the Junkyard Dog defeat the fabulous Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy, by disqualification. This was taped for television at the Fairgrounds Coliseum in Jackson, Mississippi. On the 19th, the fabulous Freebirds, Hayes and Gordy, defeat Ricky Pierce and Tommy Wright. This was at the KTBS TV studios in Shreveport, Louisiana. On the same TV tapings, Hayes and Gordy defeat Steve Hall and Terry Orndorff, another TV taping. And then, that later that night, the Hayes and Gordy defeat King Cobra and the Junkyard Dog in the Coliseum in Low Ranger, Louisiana. So they had a triple. They had a triple shot on the 19th. On the 21st, the Mid-South Tag Team titles are back on the line for Buck Robley and the Junkyard Dog as they defeat Hayes and Gordy one more time, this time in the Municipal Auditorium, New Orleans, Louisiana. On the 25th, Stephen Little Bear and Wahoo McDaniel defeat Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy in the Hirsch Coliseum in Shreveport, Louisiana. On the 26th, we have Stephen Little Bear and Wahoo McDaniel again defeating Hayes and Gordy, this time in the Rapids Parish Coliseum, Alexandria, Louisiana. On the 27th, we are in the auditorium in Lafayette, Louisiana. Mid-South Tag Team title match. Buck Robley and the Junkyard Dog defeat Hayes and Gordy. And then later that night, that's where we have a double shot on the 27th. Stephen Little Bear, the Junkyard Dog, and Wahoo McDaniel defeat Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Bull Ramos at the Civic Center in Lake Charles, Louisiana. On the 28th, it's a lights out match. The Junkyard Dog defeats Michael Hayes in the Municipal Auditorium in New Orleans. A lights out match would mean that it was the end of the night, non-sanctioned, lights out event. Mid-South Wrestling in no way, shape, form, or fashion would have sanctioned the match or taken any responsibility for either participant. On the 30th, we're going to wrap up. April as the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy defeat King Cobra and Terry Orndorff at the Fairgrounds Coliseum in Jackson, Mississippi. Seems like that Hayes and Gordy spent a lot of time losing in the month of April. And I don't know just how much longer they have in the area. I'm looking because they're not gonna hit Atlanta. They're not hitting Atlanta until September. So this looking on into May, this is just heating up. They're heating the summer up because as we go into May, this is the time when Michael Hayes is going to have his dog collar match with the Junkyard Dog after they blind him with the Freebird hair cream. So I guess Michael's going to graduate from being in a program with Buck Robley all the time to his red hot lighting the territory fire on feud with the Junkyard Dog. And maybe we will talk about the month of May for Michael Hayes at a later date. But that's it for today. I appreciate you popping in. Coach Keith says he loves this stuff. I do too. Thank you for joining me for it. We'll get back here on Mark Out Moments again. For That Boy Was Busy, I'm Palm Water Dave. Have a good evening.